Kia ora tātou. E mihi ana ki a tātou I tai mai I te pōnei, kōrero ki te kōrero. Kia ora everybody. We're back here again this evening doing our kōrero. Tonight's topic is out of He Wakaputanga, the kupu Waitangi. We have our panel here to go into some discussions and to ask some relevant questions and questions that are being asked out there in the public, and we'll do our best to answer them for you. So in saying that, kia ora everybody, hei aha te pātai. Greg, your question. I think you're on mute.
Pardon me, I'll unmute Bruce Price.
No problem,
Kia ora,
all
Ross.
good. Kia ora.
Where in the He Wakaputanga does it mention the kupu Waitangi?
Kia ora, Greg. Now, simply Article 3, there's 4 articles in He Wakaputanga, and Article 3 specifically mentions Waitangi. If I can quickly read the whakatauki within Article 3 that identifies where Waitangi is mentioned. Article 3, ko matou ko ngā Tino Rangatira ka mea nei. We, the hereditary chiefs, collectively agree. Kia huihui, ki te runanga, ki Waitangi, a te Ngahuru, I tenei tau, I tenei tau. To meet in runanga Congress at Waitangi in the autumn of each year, ki te wakarite ture, to create laws for, kia tika ai te wakawakanga, the admin of justice, kia matou te rongo, peace and security, kia mutu te he, the end to lawlessness, kia tika te hokohoko, fair trade and commerce. That's where Waitangi is mentioned, Greg, in He Wakaputanga. Kia ora.
Yeah, kia ora, Bryce. What does it say? What is mentioned with regards to Waitangi in He Wakaputanga in that article you just read?
Kia ora, Wallace. The mention is of Waitangi in Article 3 of He Wakaputanga. It talks about a group of people, more to the point of judiciary, not te wakaminenga. It talks about a judiciary group of people using the venue Waitangi at a specific point in time throughout the year. I'm going to say in the autumn of each year, to ki te whakarite ture, to create laws for specific law areas of making. Kapai, Wallace?
Yeah, kia ora, Bryce. Thank you.
Marie, you're muted as well. Sorry.
Apologies.
There you go.
Kia ora.
Kia
In
ora.
Article 3 of the He Wakaputanga, how is Waitangi used?
Kia ora. Now, in the article on He Wakaputanga, Waitangi is used in this way, if I can say it like that, as a venue for the judiciary of Te Wakaminenga, called Te Runanga, to meet in a particular time of the year for lawmaking. Now, if I can add another component to that, Marie, the document is written by way of, I'll use this clear English word, sequences. Okay, so if we talk about sequences, we begin at the beginning of the document by first, ko matou ko ngā Tino Rangatira ka mea nei. Now that's the first sequence, identifying that at the time of 1835 and all the signatures on the document, they agreed to this process. They agreed. So that's the first point that they disclosed, that this was an agreement that was made. The second point was to identify the Judicial Congress. Okay, the second line, kia huihui, ki te runanga, ki Waitangi, a te Ngahuru i tēnei tau. Now, my knowledge and explanation of that one line, there are many, many sequences. The first sequence, Marie, being it's the Judicial Congress, the runanga. The second sequence is at Waitangi. The third sequence is in the Ngahuru, or the autumn. And the fourth sequence of each year. I'm making that point, Marie, because in my understanding of the Ngāpuhi dialect, and let's go for that explanation within a pepeha is sequenced in a specific way. Our reo, from what I understand, is sequenced in a certain way. And the suggestion that any part of that phrase in He Wakaputanga can be excluded, meaning if you are the runanga and you're the Judicial Congress and you meet in the autumn of each year, but not at Waitangi, there's a problem. You've extracted one of the sequences. Okay, so I just wanted to make that point very, very clear. If for an example, what I've seen happen quite a lot, Marie, is that there's a suggestion, or it's being written, actually, it's not a suggestion, and it says te wakaminenga met at Waitangi in the autumn to frame laws. You've excluded another part of the sequence, meaning you've replaced the runanga, which is what it says, with te wakaminenga. And I'm not sure if te wakaminenga had the authority to frame laws. I haven't seen that in this document. Ka pai, Marie? Kia ora.
You answered the first part of the question as to who they were, but why did they choose Waitangi?
Kia ora, Hakora. Now, from discussions that I've been witness to and been privy to hear of those, I'll try and contextualize sequences, okay? At that time, the Crown were in the Bay of Islands, okay? They were at Waitangi. And Waitangi was part of, in that same rohe, Ngāti Rahiri Ngāti Kaua, right? And I think following the Crown was a part of our process in that we had a hunga care, or we had a foreigner in our midst, and it was wise to keep an eye on them. And I'm just speaking the best explanation I can, because what I do know is that the Crown moved from Waitangi in the Bay of Islands to Russell. Te Wakaminenga moved with it, and when they moved from Russell, they moved to Helensville. Down next door, there's a vacant site in the middle of town in Helensville, next to the gas station. They moved to there because the government moved to there. And then when the government moved from there, they moved to Wellington. All right. So that's a little bit of an explanation, Hakora, as to the thinking of our tupuna at the time. Did they trust these people? I'm not sure. Why did they attach themselves to them? I have my own personal opinion why they attached themselves to them, because we were the superior, we were the chiefs, and there was a need to care for and look after other people and other tribes. I'm going to suggest that when you go down into the kaipara there, you're within another rohe, you're within another tribe, and it would be only assumed that it would be appropriate for us in the north here to be there to deal with those cultural compliances and positions from that point of view, instead of allowing that foreigner to skip all over the mutu without any cultural practices being allowed to be applied, if that's okay. Is that okay? Kia ora. Thank you, Akora.
Yeah, Bryce, I have a question for you. The kupu Waitangi. Is Waitangi a place, a whare? Is it an object? What is Waitangi?
Oh, kia ora. Murray, thank you for that question. I'll go to He Wakaputanga in an attempt to answer that. Kia huihui ki te runanga, to meet in the runanga. Ki Waitangi, a te Ngahuru I tenei tau, I tenei tau. Now, the English explanation, Murray, to meet at Waitangi, Congress, to meet in runanga Congress at Waitangi, right? And we go to the kupu ki Waitangi. It's my understanding that given ki Waitangi, it identifies that Waitangi is a place, or in this case, a venue. And if I can add a comment here, the establishment of the whare called Te Tiriti o Waitangi, we need to consider the contribution that the mana whenua plays in these significant events. The northern tribes hold currently now today two of the biggest events that are held in the country, along with Tauiwi, with the coronation for the kingitanga. So it's a big responsibility to care for and manaki people from right throughout the mutu. So I just wanted to make that point in this question, Murray. It's been indicated in the document in Article 3 regarding Waitangi, that Waitangi is a place or a venue. Ai, kia ora. Murray?
Kia ora, Bryce.
Ai, tēnā koutou.
Was there an agreement by the people to meet at Waitangi?
Ai, kia ora. That's a very, very important question, Ria, in regards to, I'm going to say it like this, if we abandon today's way of doing things, which are, in my opinion, and I share this personal opinion from my own observation, and you can question my upbringing if you want to with this point I'd like to make, there is not a lot of tikanga being applied at Waitangi in these significant times when it comes to He Wakaputanga. We do try, and I'm not blaming our arrogance or our ignorance around that. I would like to suggest that the elders that were managing that did the best that they could with what they had. I'm not going to make blame either, but the colonization took a lot of impact on our practices and our culture, and still does today. So what I'd like to suggest is, if you go back to that time of 1835, we'll find some very, very strict rules around tikanga. So I know that in the 70s and 80s, when a lot of our elders who lived that kind of tikanga, there were some practices that they applied for events like this, Ria, meaning one of the questions that could come from your question is, what was the question that was asked of Ngāti Rahiri, Ngāti Kawa, to be included, to have their rohe, right, included into this document? And another question that could come from your question, Ria, is what did Ngāti Rahiri, Ngāti Kawa respond? What did they say? Were there compliances? Were there rules? I am aware that if we cast our mind back most recently to the 40s and 50s and even the 60s, when lots of people used to go there and the place was very different in the celebration of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. There was a lot of contribution of kai from different parts of Ngāpuhi that went there. Was that a compliance? Meaning, if I was to be asked, would you like to host one of the biggest events for the Māori culture in your home once a year? These are the thoughts that we naturally have. How do we feed these people? Where do we house them? Do we have enough parking? Have we got the staff? Have we got the people to manaki? Because as we know, as a host of any event in our culture, the hosting people or the mana whenua do manaki the people. So what was, and I think it's very, very important, Ria, that we do ask these questions to see how we are meant to behave from outside of Ngāti Rahiri, from other tribes. How are we meant to behave when we go there to Waitangi? In my time in the late 90s and mid 90s, I remember this happening, Ria, and a lot of other people my age now do remember it happening too. There was the first porphyry, and the first porphyry was for people that had passed away, right, that were part of the Te Tiriti and He Wakaputanga koe mate. Okay, and that was done in the morning. And prior to that, there was a porphyry for kaimahi to come in. And after the koe mate, there was a porphyry for ngapuhi to go in there. And there was a changing of the guard in the whare, where within ngapuhi there were fluent people that knew about He Wakaputanga, knew about the practices and culture of He Wakaputanga, or more to the point, Te Wakaminenga, and they were established themselves on the, I'm not going to say the taumata, but as a governance within the whare. And from then on, the southern tribes arrived in sequences. Today, it's to do with traffic and travel and all of that kind of thing. There's different times and different spaces that the manuhiri come in. But at that time that I'm talking about, in my early days of this event, for an example, Ngāti Parau or a kaumātua Tame Te Maro, he brought the kotahitanga flag consistently, and they still do that today. And their kōrero was about kotahitanga, and we miss, well, I personally do miss those sequences and those processes. Today, it's difficult to see that happen. And again, I don't blame anybody. I don't blame anybody apart from the fact that colonizations and things like trustees and things like constitutions, which take us right away, or more to the point, and I think I share this sentiment with a lot of people because I've heard it, more to the point, don't allow us to apply our tikanga or the way we are and the way we should be. If I could just make this closing comment regarding that partai and everybody's partai, Ria particularly, that the suggestion of coming together, right, it's in my opinion, it's to do with our culture, it's to do with the practices of our culture. Whakapapa, tātai, those things are where the glue is that bring us together. And we do not often have that opportunity. In the days where the elders were there, those things were always applied during the mihi. And if you walked in as a visitor, by the time you finished your mihi and told everybody who you weren't a whanaunga, you were a closer relative. In some cases, that's my brother. I haven't seen him for 40 years. Whānau, so you become whānau. And there, in my opinion, the ways of coming together that are used today, in my thoughts, don't fit what the document is saying, don't fit with the document. I remember the elders Ria saying consistently, the strength is in our differences, right? Today, we're being called to hui to look the same, or look like the person that called the hui, or come under the person that called the hui. I think that's wrong. That's totally wrong. We all have our own mana. We all have our contribution. It's finding the people that have the unselfish ahua of allowing everybody to contribute, of allowing everybody to participate, but bring your tikanga hat in, right? bring your tikanga hat, not your Labour Party hat, not your National hat, not your Green Party hat, bring your tikanga hat in. Ai, kia ora tātou. Thank you, Ria. I hope that's okay. Kia ora, Hokora.
There's a lot of Maori words being thrown around, and I know that they're poetic and deep, but for maybe people that aren't familiar with the Maori words, maybe you could just give a brief corridor on tikanga. I know you could do a longer one, but maybe for people that are not familiar with it, just a brief explanation of some of the words
Okay.
that you use. Is that okay?
Oh, thank you, Hokora. Yes, I can do that because I am an expert until obviously my auntie gets here, and then go down the ranking. And firstly, the word Māori kupu. It's a kupu, right? And I understand an explanation of kupu is word, but in the Māori context of the words that are written in the document, they are a kupu. Now, if there is any tikanga around those kupu, as we've advocated in some of the discussions earlier on, those kupu of the document, if you want to get a true, genuine understanding, keeping in mind, everybody, that these kupu that were put on this, and I'm specifically talking the way my ancestors saw it, right? I'm not going to go to the Google tohunga. I'm not going to go to the rangatira webs. I'm not going to go to the kaumatua link. Okay, I'm going to say tuku kōrero. Was each kupu has a source, right? And to read the document, to find the source, you have to go from 1835 back to Ranginui and Papatuanuku. Now, I know that sounds daunting, but it's not that daunting at all. It's very, very easy and it's very simple. And the way to apply, the way the document is being applied today, and this is another gentle, subtle opinion, Cora, as far as tikanga is concerned, is we're going from 1835 and we're searching for understanding to today. We're going into dictionaries, and again, we're going onto websites, we're listening to propaganda. The best way to do it, as far as a tikanga is concerned, Greg, is to sit around the table like we are right now and share one another's kōrero. That's tikanga. And that's how we find that understanding, because the kupu, in my strong opinion, what's been explained, are emotions, right? And we've heard, Murray, I've heard this from a lot of Pākehā people, at a pōwhiri, the hair stands up on the back of my neck. And my immediate response, Marie, I've been pōwhiri'd onto a marae 10,000 times, Marie, relax, because my hair still stands up on the back of my neck too. And that's where that emotion cannot escape you. It doesn't matter how many times you hear that kupu, and that like a song from the 70s. Ria, I'm talking to you and I because we looked about the same age. And you hear it again today, and you can even smell the smell from the 70s. You draw from that. When you hear that kupu for the first time, that's the source of what you're looking for as far as that emotion is concerned. Hokora, that's the best I can do as far as my expertise of tikanga. The Te Reo Māori has been explained to me to be the most romantic dialect in the universe. Kia ora tātou. And I guess that's our time, I think, this evening. Look, I just want to take the opportunity and thank everybody, Greg, Wallace, Marie, Ria and Auntie, the team, Murray and Hokora for this chat this evening. And we'll do more. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, guys.